Hello and welcome to the Brother Slim. This is Cam back with a new ATO update video. Also, it feels like it's the start of the new year, but it is just the start of November. I'm back from Essen work trip / also a little holiday with the wife in Austria, and feeling mostly fresh and refreshed, except for the little bit of a lingering con crud we got here. But that is irrelevant. It's fun to be back, and good things are happening. So let's jump right into update 74. Learn to play details, ATO versus ATSOH. I don't think I'm going to say that out loud again. There's too many things. New escalation chart, loot evolutions, journey, spotlight, map vote, online store. As always, wild titles. Hey guys and gals, fresh from Spiel Essen, we're ready to enter the final stretch of development on last days of summer. On a side note, to those who attended the convention, did you find anything new and interesting? I'll admit, I was running from business meeting to business meeting, so I probably missed a ton, but nothing really caught my eye. Next year, the return of ITU's booth, yay or nay? I was also running business meeting to business meeting, so I didn't get to see as much things as I would like to see at Spiel. It was a really, really cool convention, though. One kind of thing I found interesting about it was at Gen Con and a lot of the cons that I've been to in the US, like window browsing and shopping booth to booth is fun and pretty appealing. It didn't really feel that way with Spiel, which is weird because it's like the one that's all about sales. Yeah, I don't know what it was about like the booth layout itself or how they're organized or something, but that was a little takeaway. But again, I was also there for work, so I wasn't able to really shop around regardless. I did get to hang out and chat with Marcin though, which was such a freaking treat. Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. And Matthew, as a member of his team, actually gave me a little miniature gift too, which is extremely kind. It's the unknown name Titan. Yeah, really, really lovely meeting those folks. It was a highlight of the trip for sure. But that is enough preamble. Let's dive into the update video here. Learn to play details. Flight from Bootia. I'm sure that is mispronounced, but we'll go with it. Straight into the nitty gritty. I finished the new Learn to Play for 12 Sins at the beginning of the month. No small feat. It's almost twice as long as the first one was, at around 30k words. That's wild for the Learn to Play. Don't worry, it's not because of mechanics overload. Rather, I decided for the Learn to Play to be even more comprehensive to teach players about the adversary, special battle moves like Reflex, and so on. That sounds good. My takeaway from the first was fine enough, but it definitely, like, even though cycle 1 is like the intro cycle, even the very beginning of it, going from the Learn to Play to the actual gameplay loop, did feel like a steep curve for the first couple of battles. So that sounds good. Consequently, finishing the new Learn to Play will leave players in a much, much better position to start their summer campaign. Furthermore, it's much more story-driven than the ATO one, due to the more intimate nature of the Heraclide, where the Argonauts were amnesiac carte blanche. There is much more to convey about who you are in Sins of Heracles. Cool, I like that too. The narrative intro in ATO was fine, but very mysterious and not like... It was concrete for what it could share, but as Marcin says, like about the carte blanche, like there's not too much that can be said because there's a whole lot of unknowns, which is good in its own right because it leaves you wanting to learn a whole bunch. But starting with like a concrete kind of step into the world for this one does sound good too. Okay, there's also the new friendly layout and structure. All in all, the new Learn to Play is transformed into something more, a mini campaign, one akin to the old prelude we used to showcase ATO back in 2019. Their prelude was so cool. It was basically like an intro version of the game that you could buy as part of the campaign, and if you wanted to, you could also only get it. I think it might have been what they sent out as like like demo copies for reviewers and such too. Really, really cool. I was kind of surprised that they didn't bring it back for more recent launches, but I kind of think it was a lot of money to produce because it was basically like a demo version of a complete mini campaign. Yeah, so probably a lot of money to produce and to give out to people. And ultimately, when they probably did a campaign without it and were really successful without doing it, they're like, okay, well, why would we do this huge, massive, crazy prelude campaign when we can see just as good, if not better, results without it? So that's my takeaway for it. Really, really cool idea. They also did a miniature only pledge, which I think they ultimately scrapped because not enough people jumped on board. So yeah, that's my thought there. Okay. The campaign, titled Flight from Boeotia, takes you all through the phases and mechanics of the game and is broken into 5 parts. The tutorial battle and 4 similarly paced chapters. You may need 2 evenings to finish up this campaign, so each chapter will have a handy completion time approximation so you can plan out your sessions accordingly. For board game aficionados, it lands comfortably between the ATO Learn to Play and something like Jaws of the Lion for Gloomhaven, which is a wild comparison because Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is its own standalone game, albeit a lot shorter than normal Gloomhaven, but still. Very wild. One takeaway too that I would love to see for the fights is the first fight in ATO. In ATO, you literally just have your fists, and the fists aren't great. And it felt like, to me at least, it felt like the tutorial battle was a little bit slower because of it, because you don't really have any other options in comparison to Kingdom Death, where yeah, you're basically just using your fists, fist and teeth. But you do also have the little stabby stone face blade too, which gives you a little bit more options in the Learn to Play as well. So if there's like even just one item or like an ability that each character could do, that would be, I think, a plus in my books. The theme of just fist fighting the hand monster is great though. Right, behold, Iexatelos. ATO versus Heracles. This is an oft-asked question. How do the two games compare? Should you play one before the other? Do you need to play them in order? And so on. So, narratively, 12 Sins of Heracles is a standalone prequel, sidequel, and sequel. Let's unpack this. Heracles starts before the events of ATO and finishes sometime after that game wraps up. It is standalone in that prior knowledge of the world of ATO's story is not required. However, these stories run parallel, sometimes in the same locations, and as such, playing one before the other provides you with added satisfaction of seeing threads and plots intersect. Also, as mentioned back in 2023, some matrix code will work between the two games, as well as Onwards and Skyward Odyssey. Mechanically speaking, Sins of Heracles is very much a sequel to ATO. I'm taking what worked and applying it, streamlining some of the clunkiness, and adding a whole lot of new content. The baseline for the new rulebook will be the old one, but it will be rewritten section by section with two goals in mind. New or changed rules. These will obviously be new or changed. There will be a separate section for old deckhands titled What's Changed. That's good to know. Where all these will be listed so you don't have to browse the book back and forth. That is good for sure. Streamlining, I'll be looking to accommodate some of the FAQ and reword some rules so they are less ambiguous and are faster to apply or easier to remember. You know that some big system changes like the Carcass Delve, character progression, and the new journey phase, but there are a slew of medium to small changes that nonetheless will have an impact on the game. I'd like to share a few of these today. Cool. So to the streamlining, I might have shared this before, but I haven't done it in a while, but I would literally use the ATO rulebook as freaking like bedtime reading if I couldn't fall asleep or would randomly wake up and couldn't get back to sleep, because it is a thick, heavy chunk of a dense rulebook. So streamlining it sounds like a big plus for sure. New black dice. So these are some of the quick changes that they've mentioned. These have an additional potential on one of their sides, making them slightly stronger than an ATO and in line with KF. Bane tokens. This is a new higher tier token category that incorporates all the tokens not considered condition tokens, i.e. Ambrosia, Despair, Midas, Pain, Madness, and so on. There are new, more general mechanics and abilities that deal with these. This has been made to raise the viability of certain builds as well as to streamline the rules. So builds. The fact that there's builds in this is going to be really cool because yeah, you could, and some people do, I think, theory craft a little bit for a normal base ATO, but the character progression is going to really build on that, shall we say. So looking forward to that. Overbreak, it's official. We're going Persian all the way on these. Overbreak is common in KF, and I think it starts in cycle 4, especially just by this wording here, where it's a rule where if you exceed the AT value by like a set amount, you'll get some sort of bonus for it. So it's kind of a fun little mechanic there. I'm assuming that that's what this is. Face towards most titans. Unlike the former, this one will make the game slightly harder. There's a lot of game effects that tell you to face the most titans, which in practice usually allows you to position the primordial in one of two ways. This gives you unprecedented control over primordial facing, as well as creating situations where you wouldn't turn the primordial at all. Sin's primordials are more wild. They are always on the move. Consequently, when facing titans, if the primordial can change facing, it must change facing. Okay? New escalation chart. This one deserves its own update paragraph. You'll find it a few pages below. New super adversary symbol. In ATO, you spawn the adversary on the map if you draw 2 adversary symbols on the exploration card, or 1 symbol if you find it anywhere else. Slightly confusing, right? Well, now that other symbols will be explained in the super version, now that other symbol will be expanded into the super version. One last thing to remember. Okay, I don't really get the pro of that, but we'll wait and see what it actually looks like in the book. Trauma draw symbol. This has been introduced in KF, though few knew it was a late ATO invention. We just ran out of time to implement it. Well, not anymore. The trauma draw moment will have its own line of death symbol. No more wondering when you need to draw a trauma. Cool. Battle events. There are now key battle events like drawing first blood, dealing the killing blow, and dying first that give you additional experience and hubris. Oikos Enchiridion. It's a kind of booklet by way of family sheet, Frankenstein with a large technology card and an extensive reference sheet. A handy guide with all of the relevant rules for journey and battles, and a map legend. I think you'll like it. That sounds very useful. Map packs. There's a whole new system behind these. I'll talk about it below in the journey and timeline-lessness paragraph. What a word. Heracles is full of these kinds of quality of life improvements. Awesome picture of the Nemean line, I believe. New escalation chart. So it's faster and more savage. Heracles is more faster and savage than ATO. So it was in need of an updated escalation chart. Don't worry, it's not turning the ICP on its head. Rather, it's streamlining it, removing edge cases, making the difficulty curve smoother and slightly faster. And last but not least, it offers a much more elegant solution for the high end of the chart, mostly for Nestus Theater. I'd say that, and by the way, we're handling BP3 cards. I'd say that and the way we're handling BP3 cards are the major changes. Normally, wounded BP3 don't end up at the bottom of the deck anymore. Instead, they return to your escalation deck, which is shuffled, and a new BP3 card is added to that deck in its stead. This makes for a more dynamic battle and avoid what I call the BP3 gap, i.e. the slight difference in win ratios of players who ended up with a low AT BP3 in the deck versus a high AT one. Interesting. Then we have a work in progress of the chart. Loot and loot evolutions. Unlike KF and just like ATO, Heracles has primordial dropping crit loot items. You also get story loot and special loot, possibly from some carcass delves. Oh, the small primordials and strange beasts also drop specific loot. In fact, Heracles has the most loot per game ever. Wild. I'll be curious how that compares to Enormity once that one's wrapped up too. I also know a lot of you, also as an aside, the crit loot monster specific items are one of my favorite things about ATO, so I'm really glad that it's continued here. I also know a lot of you enjoyed those few special pieces of loot that you were allowed to evolve, your Pyramidions and your Remembrances. Well, Heracles has many more of these. Many, many more. Most loot cards can be evolved based on unique requirements, giving you more mini-quests to solve. So we have a toothpick, turns into a Craw stick. That's fun. I wonder if that's to do with the crab spider thing. So fun to see how it levels up there. Good stuff. Mandible Catar turns into Mandible Catars. Good stuff too. Journey and Timeline-lessness. Sounds like a title of a postmodern sociology book. I've discussed the new journey phase many times before, but there is still more to unravel here, so join me on this. Journey. In Aeon Trespass, Sins of Heracles, you still traveled around map tiles, albeit divided into nodes. We've showed those before. Each node is different. Some will offer you the familiar bonuses of Progress, Doom, and Gaia Seeds, while others are brand new, special points of interest, Bronze People Workshops, Sanctuaries, and Beast Territories. Each time you move onto a node, you draw an exploration card from the appropriate deck, Civilization or Wilderness. These work similarly to those in ATO and can also stack, although you'll be dealing with a single stack only. Cool stuff. So we have City and Wilderness. Cool. So the more I smile upon you. Resolve some stuff and so forth. Resolve stuff. Cool. Each time the exploration card gives you threat, you move the dial on your Oikos Triskelion. Each time the Ouroboros window shows an adventure, you go on an adventure, from the hub indicated by the card you've just drawn. Yay, no more rolling d10s for hubs and adventures. Didn't mind the d10 rolling personally, but having this more straightforward version sounds good. Cool. Each time the Ouroboros window shows an event, you draw an event card. These are more permanent than exploration cards and create new opportunities and hindrances for the next several rounds. Think weather, conditions, hunts, and so on. Guard Patrol. Gain +1 Doom, and then resolve an effect based on your reputation with the Royalists. Cool. Each time the Ouroboros window shows Oikos Rage, you gain Oikos Rage. You can't escape your legacy of violence. Oikos Rage represents a new journey stat and a new way to lose your campaign. Many things can happen on the various nodes, and from the various exploration and event cards. Both of these decks acclimate, just like they did in ATO, so you get an unprecedented feeling of moving through a living, breathing, and dying world. To haven't really experienced this through Cycle 1, I'll be curious how this deck changes throughout Cycles 2 and onwards, once we finally get back into it. But yeah, I'll be curious how different this is. Okay. If your threat goes over 12, you'll launch into a threat battle, and the dial will reset to 1. There's no stopping at 0. This system completely replaces the calendar-like nature of the timeline, which doesn't mean there won't be timed events. This time, they'll just be governed by clocks. That's how they call them over in the indie RPG scene. Fancy timers. Yep, fancy timers. Those clocks are good. I like using them in some games for sure. The Wild Sea was the one that introduced me to it. Don't mind my quick sip of coffee here. Yum. If there is no battle and the adversary doesn't catch up to you, depending on where you are, you'll be able to hunt, rest, or craft weapons. And if you're on a city tile, you'll launch into a whole city phase. Here, the Find River Code mechanic, one explored in KF and with Kingdom Ciphers. I saw a little bit about this. This is pretty cool. Let's see if it says anything. Your current story card will have a part of a code, while the city node on the map will provide the other. Together, they'll create a unique code that will guide you into the city at your point of the story. This allows our towns to be highly reactive to major plot points like wars and natural disasters, or polis fairs. Really freaking cool. I could only imagine what tracking this on the back end would be like, but as far as like the play option and that reactivity piece, like really, really cool. So I'm excited to experience this. In the cities, you look for clues, use your journey abilities, and develop your character. You can only spend your experience when in a city. Once you're done with a city, you can continue your journey. Oh, one more thing. When you visit a city or other type of haven, you also refresh the world, something not present in ATO. Refreshing the world allows you to make the one-time map nodes you visited, progress, guide seeds, etc., viable again. It also has some adverse effects like the progression of doom, which brings me back to maps. That's really sweet because backtracking in ATO so far, once again, only played through Cycle 1, is boring and doesn't really feel... It's like a penalty because basically you can still get Doom, but you can't get any of the benefits, and so backtracking isn't fun. And to be fair, didn't ever really want to backtrack anyways because wanted to just keep exploring new parts of the map. But every time that we did need to backtrack, it just wasn't fun. So that is kind of a cool tweak. Mapbacks, we'd like to hear from you. In ATO, mapbacks are rather plain, made for cycle recognizability rather than any gameplay feature. Not so in Sins. In Sins, you're using the backs constantly as you scout the region ahead. In gameplay terms, it simply means that once you move on to a new map tile, you also have to place all the different map tiles on the table, just with their backs facing up. This is a double effect. You can try to somewhat make out where you're going, and what you may encounter ahead, and also marvel at the full map art unobstructed by UI. I don't know why I hadn't come up with this before. Interesting. That's really, really cool because flipping over the maps and being able to see it all is it's a small thing, but I loved it in Cycle 1, and actually being able to see the whole map was awesome. And so getting essentially a version of that doesn't have all of the gameplay elements is really, really cool, and especially kind of merging that into trying to figure out where you want to go based on your story and your objectives too. Like, that's fun, especially with how like innovative is not the right word. Like involved the map tiles are and how they hint at what's going on in the world and those locations and stuff. So yeah, this is really cool. I do stand before a conundrum, one I hope you may help me solve. We have a few ways of making those map backs. We can just show the artwork unaltered, which is great for art lovers, but makes the backs and fronts less distinct. We can also go a different route, make them more map-like, with a parchment tint or something in between. What do you think? Note, these are clusters of 4 map tiles, not a single map tile. That is cool. That's an interesting point about making it more parchment and map-like. I think my vote would be somewhere in between. Just because then that way, like Marcin was saying there, it keeps it distinct from the actual gameplay, while also still being like very evocative at the same time. But I say that, and honestly, my favorite is this top one, which looks like it's basically like just the actual gameplay map minus the gameplay components. So, we're even doing a mini poll, so you guys should vote there. Good stuff. Deluxe Tiles Conundrum. I have a second conundrum I'd like to pick your mind on. The Deluxe Tile set for Sins of Heracles. As you know, in 2023, we offered you a complete set of all tiles in one box. Now, we're shipping Last Days of Summer before the rest of the seasons. We can't ship the box now, those final maps are not yet ready. We also can't ship them with the next wave. You want to play Summer with them, that's why you've bought them. My idea is to simply split the project into 4. This is a bit of a logistical nightmare from the Pledge Manager's standpoint, but we've handled worse. That's why I've decided to go a slightly different route to offer, in time, smaller boxes for each of the subsequent seasons. While to remake the current box is truly a deluxifying product of the entire Sins of Heracles, it would consist of the Last Days of Summer deluxe tiles, obviously, but also other deluxe components like a special velvet bag. I have not discussed these with you yet, have I? And a minted metal obol coin for carcass delves and extra immersion. But I would also like to hear from you. What deluxe components would you like to see in the game? What do you think such a deluxe box could offer? Please share your ideas in the comments. Interesting. The deluxe stuff for me in this game is... it doesn't really matter to me. The game is huge in scope and huge in cost, and basically if there's anything that I would want to bling out with it, it would be just some of the extra gameplay stuff. So not my concern there, but it is cool that they're trying to think of like other ways to incentivize deluxeification for the people that did want this stuff. So that is good. Unsorted Futures, and here's a sneak peek of some of the wonders in store for you in Sins of Heracles. Mm. Ooh, creepy. I think this art's my favorite out of these ones at least. Weird merc toad thing. That's also very creepy and gives me vibes of that weird thing from outer space and a potential like tie into the third game, which I still think is going to be a little bit more sci-fi. Black Friday online store. Our final online store sale approaches, I assume, of the year. It will happen around Black Friday, possibly on November 27th, due to the US EU time difference. As mentioned before, we'll have a brand new selection of Titans for Persian Dreamwalkers and the Lost in Action, now returned and reworked Zero Trireme Daredevil Wishender, as well as the final engine Primordial. As is tradition, these will be accompanied by a selection of gear cards and new sheets, and in the case of the engine, a special battle. That's cool. Daredevil Wishender and Final Engine are the stars of the sale. We went back and resculpted both, adding more detail and dynamicism to the poses. Yeah, that sculpt looks really, really good. It also looks fragile as heck, but it looks really, really cool. So this, in my mind, would probably be a bit like more of a show piece rather than a gameplay piece, but you obviously can use it in the game. Just be careful if you do so. Due to popular demand, we've crunched our processes and will deliver larger print runs than with the Delphian Dreamwalkers. Also due to popular demand, we'll offer a smaller reprise print of the Delphian Titans, sheet and gameplay promos included, but without the collector's items. We've also streamlined our packing and shipping procedures, and we'll have a lot faster turnaround on this one than in the previous year. That is cool. So here we have some of the photos. Persian Solon with hands of Midas. That looks freaking sweet. So just throwing these gold hands. Mini itself, very static pose, but also with those hands and painting that gold, I think that will look really cool. Persian Philoctera. This is extremely Attack on Titan, which is sweet. Again, though, like just looking at it, it looks very, very fragile. So gameplay piece, I would be very hesitant to use it on the game myself, but really cool sculpt. Ulyssia, Alchemic Incendiaries. This one is really cool. This one might be my favorite so far. Cool weapon too. Fragile still for sure, but I think a lot less so than the previous one. And Hero, I can't remember his name. Herodotus? I think that might be it. Cool with the wings. Yeah, honestly, I think my favorite is Ulyssia. Test glance. All right, then here is the sculpt of this. Once again, really, really cool. There's a lot going on. Onwards we go. The last engine. This one, the rough sculpt during the campaign, never really wowed me. I feel like the legs are a little short and stubby, but it does look really, really cool. Penultimate normal Aeon Trespass update of this year. There's going to be one more right before Christmas and then a special end of the year one, as is tradition. In December, I may be less active here due to the birth of my first child, but I will nevertheless continue. Woo! Congrats, Marson. That is crazy exciting. Continue work on Heracles and advise on Enormity. Advise, 2 of the bosses have been designed by me. As I'm still at it, I fear it is unlikely we'll commence production on Summer in the first week of December. Not that the continued flip-flops, tariff wars between US and China has made it easier to plan concurrent productions, winky face. Any delay will not impact our other lines and impacts Aeon Trespass only in terms of writing, as I've already designed the game past summer. Similarly to last year's ATO expansion production, as soon as I finish writing, I'll announce it and the game goes into production. Still, to recompense a potential delay, we will have something special and free for you in December. I'm also toying with releasing Skyward Odyssey early next year as a PDF, just like we did with Onwards. Would you be interested? If so, tell us in the comments. Okay, this has turned into another one of those, is this an update or an Omega Hub Adventure type of update? So I'll cut it here. See you in the comments. Yeah, massive update. I kind of figured that this video has gone way longer than planned, but that's okay. There's a lot of cool stuff to cover. And yeah, always look forward to their updates at the end of the year. Usually they feature some stuff talking about what they're going to be doing in upcoming years, and have teased, I think there's like 3 or 4 projects, 3 new ones that we don't really know much about. There's been teases of new Kingdoms for Lore and stuff on the horizon too. So yeah, it's fun to see what they share for like all of the stuff that we don't see of what they're working on behind the scenes. So looking forward to that, and I'll probably do a video covering the store, maybe even a little live stream of covering it. That might be kind of fun to see what they put together, but I guess we already know that too, so we'll see. But anyways, again, this has probably gone on longer than intended, so thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Bye!